I actually worked for a company called the Aerospace Corporation in 91, 92 as an intern when I was at MIT. And there were a lot of projects going on with like the Brilliant Eyes program and a lot of this stuff where they were trying to, potentially shoot down warheads from outer space. So I got a little look into what that was like. And then, of course, I got seduced by Wall Street and went that way. But yeah, I kind of can a little bit know what that feels like to be in there. You took all of that knowledge in the Air Force, computer science and everything, and then you started applying it into technology. And am I right in assuming that it's maybe the cybersecurity aspect of it that you took most from the military, or was it a lot of things that you brought into private sector?
Well, so I had a very non-traditional career path in the military. I did research in a small team of 5 people working for the senior executive in the Air Force for machine learning. So it started off very early in deep technology, machine learning and AI specifically. And then that led on to teaching at the Air Force Academy. I mean, most officers don't work in a lab and they don't go teach, so, and then from there, I went to the Missile Defense Agency, also a very unusual role in the military, managed this massive software program for the Missile Defense Agency. So I had a lot of deep tech and managerial experience, all of which certainly helped in my transition. And then, you in the military, there's a certain work ethic that you learn just because you have to. It's just ingrained in you from the time you go into boot camp, and then you live it every day. And there are these sort of non-tangible benefits that you pick up from being in the military. All of that contributed to, my career path later and success today, for sure.
Interesting. And you're probably talking about just personal discipline and
Yes.
expectations and work ethic. And I guess you got a crash course in management when you go into the military and go into being an officer.
As a young officer, I don't remember my age. I was probably in my late 20s when I was managing this program for the Missile Defense Agency. It's just unheard of to have that kind of responsibility for people in the private sector at that age. It just normally doesn't happen. And in the military, you have the opportunity to do that. And sometimes it's thrust upon you. And in my case, I welcomed it and learned a lot from it. It was a great experience.
Yeah, I just had a flashback to Colin Powell's biography, and he was saying that only in the military, could he have had such a structured, career growth path, based on his merit. And he was just noting that, whatever you might say about the military, he's like, there's no way I could have achieved this in the private sector. And for that time in America, it was interesting. I don't have any military experience, but obviously I've read a lot about people in there. But that's a really fascinating observation. And one thing, I guess, in the military, I mean, obviously these days in the last 20 years, cybersecurity is the buzzword. There's a lot of investment in it. But I guess in the military, there's always a security component, right? It's something you're always thinking about. So maybe you grew up in an environment where that's something that's always on your mind, and maybe that's carried over now to what you do now.
No, it is. It's exactly right. In fact, I remember very early being educated about EFIs. We called them EFIs, essential elements of friendly information. So you have to be careful about, in the military, you have to be careful about sharing information that might not otherwise look like it's sensitive at all, but in the aggregate becomes really damaging or consequential. And especially today in the world of data mining, right? This is precisely the same principles now being applied on a mass scale, because we live in a totally different world today. The data is there. You don't have to depend on talking to people or having personal interactions. You can pull out these EFIs, these essential elements of friendly information, from Facebook profiles or YouTube videos, or, just social in general. And so, the lessons that we learned back then, we didn't even call it cybersecurity. We used to call it information warfare before it was called cybersecurity. And the importance of that discipline has, of course, only grown tremendously in the past 20, 25 years.